How different is Blade from comics to screen?
I don't know.
Eric Brooks, aka Blade, has appeared in hundreds of Marvel comics, so there's a significant amount of lore surrounding this character. On the big screen, we've seen him be played by Wesley Snipes and Mahershala Ali in a number of movies. So let's find out how different this character is in the comics to those appearances on screen. Eric Brooks' Blade made his first appearance in 1973's Tomb of Dracula issue 10, written and illustrated by Marv Wolfman and Gene Colan. In the issue, a couple is attacked by a group of vampires a part of Dracula's Legion, but before they can be bitten, Blade, the vampire hunter, attacks and kills them. Fellow vampire hunters, Quincy Harker and his daughter Edith, are angry at Blade for killing the vampires when they could have been used to lead them to Dracula. However, us as the readers immediately learn where Dracula is, which is on a cruise ship filled with people who are rich. He doesn't intend on drinking their blood, but does intend to manipulate them to use their wealth and influence to achieve his goals. He reveals this to those on board, but one of the passengers pulls out a crucifix and points it in Dracula's direction, weakening him, allowing others to wrestle him down. As this is happening, Blade is tracked down and boarded the ship, so attacks Dracula himself. Despite both being skilled fighters, Blade is outmatched. However, Dracula gets distracted by a woman who thinks he's her soulmate after earlier transforming her into a vampire. With Blade having broken free and the passengers by his side with a crucifix, Dracula flees, but not before revealing he set the ship to explode. That was lucky, because this allows Blade to help the passengers off the ship just in time. But this will not be the last occasion where he and Dracula come face to face. Now, occasionally first appearance comics also include the origin of a character, but for Blade we had to wait 3 whole issues until Tomb of Dracula issue 13. In it, we learn that Blade is a vampire hunter because he's seeking to find the one who killed his mother. When she was pregnant with him, she fell ill, but the doctor who tended to her was a vampire, later revealed to be Deacon Frost. He sunk his teeth into her, killing Blade's mother. Her friends burst into the room as this was happening, but the vampire left the scene before those friends helped birth Eric. This is more or less how it happens in the movie, with Deacon Frost biting Eric's mum just before he was born. The main difference is that his parents' name in the comics are Tara and Lucas Cross, as opposed to Vanessa and Robert on screen. However, like all Marvel characters, they're always evolving and changing over the years, which means origins have been tweaked. Some of those changes made for Blade include his dad being a part of a secret society known as Order of Tirana, so for his wife's safety, sent her to England. There she hid her identity with the name Vanessa Brooks before giving birth to Eric in Soho, London. So Blade in the comics is British, Wesley Snipes' Blade is American, and Mahershala Ali's Blade is Australian. Yeah, you sure you're bloody ready for that, mate? Vegemite on the Barbie. Like most great characters, Eric has a complex personality. In the comic that first revealed Blade's origin, the character was told he didn't cry when he was born, nor has he ever cried a day in his life. I don't know if that's still the case, or if he's just saying that to sound stoic, but it's interesting nonetheless. Both the comics and movies explain that he grew up on the streets. On screen, he was attacked by Abraham Whistler, thinking he was a full vampire, but upon realizing who Eric was, decided to look after and train him to be a vampire hunter. As Whistler does not exist in the comics, the foster father figure on page was a different vampire hunter, Jamal Afari. It was during this training that Eric sought to avenge his mother's death and call himself Blade after the Blade of Weapons. Though Blade and Jamal parted when Afari took the fall for a murder Eric did to a person he thought was a vampire. This led to Blade being independent, so earned money by performing in nightclubs as a jazz trumpeter. Early Blade in the comics was quite arrogant, but over time and in the movies, he's become more serious, vengeful, quite emotionless, though seems to care about his friends even if he doesn't show it. Despite all this, he's also known to drop a dry quip or two.
Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
Now what's Blade's connection to other characters? Romantically, there's nothing on screen, but in the comics, those most notable love interests are Saffron Calder and Spitfire. Over the years, Blade would team up with other vampire hunters, like Night Stalkers, as seen across both mediums, but like Abraham Whistler, his daughter Abigail is also not in the comics. And a couple of other noteworthy groups Blade has been a part of in the comics are Midnight Suns and the Avengers. Having said that, the character is more of a lone wolf, or will only team up with others when it's for his own benefit, like with Nyssa, who's a character exclusive to screen, and the very Marvel named Peter Parker's Spider-Man and very Marvel named Stephen Strange are exclusive to the comics. As for the villains, Deacon Frost and Dracula are prominent in the movies and comics, while Eli and Nomak are exclusive to Blade II. Varney is also a noteworthy antagonist, but Blade has also been the host of this being, and I'll talk about his link to Morbius in just a moment.
Intriguing.
Physically speaking, the tattoos are a pretty notable aspect of the character on screen, but he doesn't have this in the comics. There are times where cover images give him tats for a stylistic choice, but within those comics, he doesn't actually have them, though most of the time his skin is covered with a black trench coat, which in the comics said once belonged to Logan's Wolverine, but this wasn't something seen on page until after the first movie. This is the same with the Sunnies, which were originally green on page, and he didn't have fangs. Basically, the movies popularized the look of the character, which eventually translated to the comics. And this is more or less the same for his powers too. In the comics, because Blade's mother was bitten by a vampire just before his birth, his blood makes him immune to those creatures, as he's a person-vampire hybrid. But on screen, it also gave him the abilities of enhanced senses, strength, speed, agility, stamina, hearing, and slower rate of aging. And because he's a person-vampire hybrid, he's immune to most things that weaken full vampires, like sunlight and silver. He does, however, still need to drink people's blood, but regularly uses a serum to counteract this. Now, again, this is all something that was added to the comics after the movie. Prior to that, he was basically just a vampire hunter, immune from vampire bites. The way they added this power on page to become a daywalker was being bitten by Morbius, which basically enhanced his already vampire-like bloodstream. Now, both Page and Screen have said that he's immune from sunlight, but in 2019, the comic said that the character would burn if exposed to red sunlight. Like the physical appearance and powers, Blade's weapons are also something that first became notable on the big screen. Initially relying on a wooden stake in the comics, since the movies added swords, guns, and shuriken, those have also become a staple on page too. Like how the movies are inspired by the comics, it's not uncommon for comics to be inspired by elements used in the movies, but Blade is a character that didn't really become notable until he was adapted to screen, which seems to be the reason for these on-page additions and changes.
Thought I might try fire for a change.
As for Marvel Prime Eric, he might be from the universe with the character's most appearances, but other notable Blades across the comic multiverse include a Blade who's king of the vampires, he's been Worthy, a baby, a zombie, a duck, a futuristic cyborg, and a cannibal who ate James Rhodes. On Earth 8772, Blade was the first known vampire. After being captured and testing his blood, they realized he was unable to contract any disease, so civilians went to hunt down all vampires so they could use their blood in curing all diseases for themselves. Earth 14105's Blade admitted he kills anyone he suspects of being a vampire, even when he knows they're not, because he just likes killing. Wesley Nikeo is 2099 Blade, who's a zombie surgeon. Elsa Bladestone is a warp between Elsa Bloodstone and Blade. Nightblade is a warp between Misty Knight and Blade. There's a universe where Blade worked on a movie based off the events of the Super Civil War. And there's a Blade who was recruited by Cable to kill Thanos as a baby, but failed. As for comic-to-screen adaptations of stories that Eric Brox's Blade has been a part of, none of the films are really directly inspired by any comic story per se. They more just took a bit of inspiration from the character's entire history, but some other notable comic arcs that Blade has been a part of include, but not limited to, Curse of the Mutants, where the X-Men require Blade's assistance to defeating a vampire uprising, War of the Realms, where Malekith has destroyed all the realms and is setting his sights on Midgard, and Blood Hunt, where Earth has gone dark, so vampires come out of hiding in an attempt to take down notable Marvel heroes.
Nice.
Hey, you want to hear some fun facts about Blade?
Yes.
Here are some fun facts about Blade. According to a 2019 comic, Blade thinks the best albums of all time are Miles Davis's Bitches Brew and Beyonce's Lemonade. This shot at the end of Blade Trinity, where Blade opens his eyes, is actually CGI. Or CG eyes, am I right? According to those who worked on the film, Wesley Snipes and director David S. Goyer did not get along. So during the scene, Snipes apparently refused to cooperate, so instead of having another argument, they just instead decided to use computer-generated imagery to open his lids. This may be one of the reasons why he didn't reprise his role in the continuation TV show, Blade the Series, starring Kirk Sticky Jones as the title character. Mahershala Ali's Blade has currently had 0 seconds of screen time in the MCU, but nearly 2 whole seconds of audio time where he was able to fit in 7 words.
Sure you're ready for that, Mr. Whitman?
Actors almost cast as Blade before Wesley Snipes were Denzel Washington and Lawrence Fishburne. As for Mahershala Ali, he went to Marvel in the late 2010s asking to play Blade in the MCU. There were talks about that appearance being in his own TV show, but at 2019 San Diego Comic-Con, it was announced to be a film. That film was scheduled to be released on September 6, 2024, but was pushed back so rewrites could be made on the script. Over the years, writers and directors came and went, actors were cast in various roles, the filming date kept getting pushed back, and eventually got to the point where the release date had to be pushed back too. As of 2025, the movie is on indefinite hold, and with Avengers Secret Wars not being released until the end of 2027, if we do end up getting a Blade film, I don't think it'll be coming until at least 2028.
There's only been one Blade. There's only ever gonna be one Blade.
Eric Brooks' Blade is one of Marvel's most interesting characters. Even though we've seen this character put to screen a few times, there are significantly more stories told with him in the comics. While there are some major differences from page to screen, and elements one medium has covered and the other hasn't, there are also many similarities, and I think Wesley Snipes has done a great job to capture a compelling on-screen portrayal. Like most Marvel characters who have appeared in many comics, they've had time to evolve and change, so the movies use this to their advantage and create a version that best reflects this in the modern day, and to suit the larger on-screen universe. The reason I started this series was to show that there are many differences from page to screen, and that's okay. A good story is a good story. Things even change from comic to comic. There are always going to be major differences, because the comic universes are different from the movie universes. On-screen portrayals are always only inspired by the comics. But thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what your favourite movie, show, or comic featuring Blade is, and don't forget to absolutely obliterate those like, hype, subscribe, and share buttons. I'm just kidding. Only do it with enough force that it registers. I don't want any of you breaking whatever device you're watching this on.